Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Dewa Rasati, and here I will little explain about speaking and listening processes. What are speaking and listening processes? Speaking and listening processes are how of speaking and listening, and depend on the context of the speaking and listening situation. For example, informal or formal. The process of speaking and listening are the first is planning and preparing, and the second is managing of speaking and listening, and then reviewing and reflecting, and the last is setting goals. Speaking processes overview. Speaking underpins all learning and is the founding for thinking. Everyone or students speak to satisfy needs and wants, and then interact socially, and then persuade or control others, and then explore ideas, report and confirm, and the last is formulate and confirm thought. The speaking processes includes the three distinct stages. The first is before speaking, and then during speaking, and after speaking. Well, the first is before speaking. The speaker decides what they will going to say and how they will say it and who will be listening. And the second is during speaking. The speaker has to consider various factors, for example, being understood, tone of voice, using suitable vocabulary, non-verbal actions, managing listeners' reactions and responses, and then being able to recognize and repair any misunderstandings or communicative breakdown. And the last is after speaking. The speaker might have to answer the questions, clarify ideas, and then make adjustments and repair misunderstanding and explain any concepts not understood. They end by reviewing the process to clarify and confirm their understandings. Because most of the speaking we do is immediate and spontaneous. This process is usually automatic in all except formal planned situations, where speech is deliberately constructed for different communicative effects. Well, back to speaking process on planning and prepare. Students prior experiences and sociocultural backgrounds, or inside or both inside or outside classroom, will impact on what they say or how they say it. All students face a series of decisions before they speak. These decisions will be automatic when the situation is familiar, but carefully planned when the situation is unfamiliar or formal. More formal and unfamiliar spoken text often involve some level of planning and thinking before speaking. Students can plan for their speaking in a wide range of ways. This might include simple techniques, for example, drawing picture, talking with someone, or writing down thoughts. And more complex techniques, such as creating word webs, or make mind mapping, or journal entries. And the second of speaking process is managing speaking. For students to be considered competent, They need to be able to successfully managing a number of different factors. They need to be able to interaction with their audience and responding to positive and negative feedback and making necessary adjustments. They must able to predict, self-monitor, respond to questions, summarize and synthesize thoughts, and then explain and justify their opinions. And the last on speaking process is reflecting and reviewing and refining. It is important for students that have the time and support to reflect on their own speaking, whether it is planned or planned speech acts that have taken place in formal settings or speech that has occurred in unplanned informal settings. Reflecting will allow them to refine their speech and set goals for future interactions. Well, back to the listening. Listening process overview. Listening is more than just hearing words and sounds. Listening is part of a complex active thinking process that includes attaching meaning to the sounds. Emphasis of Bates and Sibaratsky, 2004. Well, and then the four types of listening defined by Wolfing and Tockley, 1992. The first is informational listening, and the second is critical listening, and then appreciative listening, and the last is empathetic listening. Informational listening. Listening to receive information, follow instruction and direction. And then critical listening. Listening to evaluate information. And then appreciative listening. Listening to for enjoyment. And the last is empathetic listening. Listening to support others without passing judgments. For students need to develop and practice different types of listening in a range different of context. For example, listening to music on the radio, listening to a lecture, listening to a friend telling a personal story, and taking part in an interview. The listening process includes three distinct stages: before listening, during listening, and after listening. Before listening decides on what type of listening is required. And then during listening, monitor comprehension, making use of strategies such as self-questioning, synthesizing, and connecting. And the last is after listening, reflect on and review listening. Well, listening process. The first is planning and preparing. Students need to be given the opportunity to plan, gather, and organize prior to the act of listening. Provide students with the time and support to investigate and analyze the domains of the variety of different listening situation involved. However, students from different cultural, social, and religious backgrounds may have different concepts of listening attentively, and the teacher should be aware of his. Prepare students for listening by making them aware of listening protocol in particular situations. The second of listening process is managing listening. To do this effectively, students need to develop the ability to solve questions as they listen. For example, asking themselves questions, repeating interesting words, and practice back to themselves. Forming questions to ask the speaker, making connections to what they already know, making comparisons and inference, making notes, speculating about whether they are hearing facts or opinions. And the last of listening process is reflecting, reviewing, and refining. It is important to give students time and support to reflect on their listening. Reflecting on listening experiences is critical, as it allows students to reflect on what they have heard, clarifying meaning and expanding their thinking. Well-planned reflection and review is as important as planning and during listening. Okay, I think it's enough from me. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.